Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. We are back here again with you and very glad to be here. Today on our show we have Jarmal Arnold as our guest. Jarmal is a behavioral youth specialist and he's worked with Families First, Kindle Farm School, and HCRS, Healthcare and Rehabilitation Services, here in town. Jarmal is currently the Youth Belonging to Land Coordinator and supports the CSA at SUSU CommUNITY Farm. Welcome, Jarmal.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you got some time to come on and talk to us a little bit. You've been in Brattleboro, what, about 15 years or so?
About 15 years.
Yes, and you came here high school age?
Yep, 16.
From Baltimore, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Big change.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that for you?
It was one of those things that I was appreciative of because it was a change. Mm. And at the time, I didn't realize how powerful that change was going to be. I couldn't have conceptualized it at that age. The cool thing that happened when I left is I had a neighbor who was probably about 30 years old, and I had shared the news that we were leaving. And he said, "You have a chance, take it." And that stuck with me. It still sticks with me. So
change. That was a real urban area. What was it like? Was it tough? Was it exciting? Was there a lot to contend with?
Yeah, it was all those things. It was everything. It was, the body trying to adapt with safety and how to stay safe. I have a younger sister, so that was a big part of my life as well. We would walk to and from school, and that was something that, as the older brother, and feeling like the man in the house and not really having my dad around, that was the focus. I kind of shifted into that, so it was a lot to contend with, from safety to everyday life. Coming out of your house to have fun and see your friends, but then also knowing that there's other things that exist in those same spaces.
Yeah. So you had your radar up a lot as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Very aware of what was going on around you.
For sure.
Yeah. How do you think that's influenced you in your life?
It's allowed me to tap into a lot of the work that I do now as far as my own self-work, and I've learned so much recently about how my self-love and my awareness of my traumas is so important in order for me to love and help other people, especially youth. So I feel like for me, it allowed me an opportunity to really hone in on those things, and it heightened a lot, sure, and my ability to sense things and read things and feel people's energies, especially the youth.
And in your family, you mentioned that you brought in foster children as well, and there was caregiving.
Sure. Yeah, so that was something that growing up, I saw my elders take care of people with autism and Down syndrome and foster children, so that was something that was always with me.
Do you think that was sort of underlying everything that you experienced coming out of that?
Yeah, it's more of an intuitive thing, and I believe it was something I've always had, and I never will regret my childhood and how I was raised and the culture I was raised in. It's a beautiful place and it's a beautiful people, beautiful food, music, but also it comes with a lot of lack, a lot of disconnection from who we truly are in those ways. And it allowed me to be in crisis situations and be able to see and sense things and say things at the right time and having that rhythm where I wasn't sending a child or a young teen into full-on crisis mode.
So you moved to Brattleboro when you were how old?
16 going on 17.
16, okay. So what was that like for you entering into Vermont? What was the whole culture shift like for you?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, the excitement of a change.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at that time in my life, the change was perfect. The segue to a decision whether to live in North Carolina again or to have a connection through my mom's brother to be here, and we made a decision to try this out just to see if we liked it. And I just wanted to share this part because this is something that I live with every day. I came to Brattleboro, Vermont in the dark. I got here when it was dark out, and I went to my uncle's apartment. We had dinner, and I woke up. This was right on South Main, and I go out his apartment door, and all I see is just green. I'm just like, I was amazed, you know.
Really?
It was just a mountain right outside of his house.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that's always stuck with me, as far as like the culture shift and, you know, those things. Again, there's something in me that's just willing to grow
Yeah.
and take on like differences and maybe things that aren't what I'm used to. I find excitement in that. I find some sort of inspiration in that because I don't understand it. I want to understand it more.
Yeah. Was it a pretty good segue into the high school for you?
It was a decent segue.
Yeah.
I do feel like I showed up to a place that may not have had a lot of experience with a person that, you know, my phenotype and coming from where I came from, because it's really rare. As long as I've been here, I have yet to meet someone from Baltimore, like
Really?
really where I'm from.
Uh-huh.
I've met people from, you know, Towson and the outskirts of the city, but
Yeah.
or in Maryland even, but I've never met anyone from
Yeah.
exactly where I'm from.
One thing you mentioned that impressed me was how food has been kind of a focal point for you, and the availability of food, what it was like when you were a kid and what it was like when you came to Brattleboro.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and that was a big connection, and it just makes so much sense to me now, where I'm at now in SUSU, because I came into a school and the first way I was able to make a connection was through food, not even through like schooling or friends or anything.
What was the experience?
I went into a lunchroom and I observed, you know, a person making sandwiches to your order, wraps, you know, turkey, cheese. I saw a person near a salad bar. I then noticed that there was a Powerade container or cooler, you know, full of Powerade. I saw an ice cream chest. And I later found out that week that there was a person there in the morning making to your order breakfast sandwiches.
Wow.
And I just, in those moments, of course, I'm happy. I'm 16. I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
But as time went on, I started to really think about my lunches, my breakfast, my resources or lack thereof when I was growing up in public schools in Baltimore, in the west side of Baltimore.
So it was really different back there.
Way different.
Yeah. Was it what you would call a food desert?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the access to fresh fruits and vegetables and things that like will really give your body an opportunity to be healthy,
Right.
and grow in the way it should. Again, you know, you can go to a store that's, you know, a block up the street from your home, and you have access to things that are full of, you know, the very things that causes your body to shut down or maybe not be able to heal.
Were there any little lights in that tunnel? Anything that actually showed you that there was good food available?
Yeah, I was thankful for the men and the women that really wanted to show, you know, that it's an option. You know, this is important, rather, that this is important. And it was through a horse and a cart and a man, you know, holding on to the reins of the horse, if you will. And behind him, you know, it's cantaloupe, it's grapes, it's bananas,
Really?
a lot of, like peaches, a lot of tasty fruits.
Yeah.
And that was about once, maybe every 2 weeks to a week, you would see him, and then the bells would be jingling from the horses. You know, I'm not sure the name, but yeah, it would be jingling away, and you would know that's the fruit guy.
Wow.
You know?
That's an amazing image.
Yeah.
After the picture that you painted of Baltimore and what was available.
Yeah.
You do really well at BUHS. You're playing football. And what happened towards the end of high school there when you were making decisions about what to do next?
Yeah, I felt this really strong pull internally that school wasn't something that I felt connected to. My mom really pushed it, and I know that it really disappointed her that I wasn't interested.
In going on to college, you mean?
No, yeah, I had invitations to play football and, you know, connect to school in that way. But there was just something that I just had I didn't feel drawn to go to college. I didn't feel drawn to do that. I felt like I still had work to do in myself and where I was at, you know, in Brattleboro. You know, that feeling of not feeling like I need to watch my back every second, like the alarms and the alerts and the vigilance was, you know, subsiding somewhat. It was still there, but it was an opportunity to finally think and finally understand my own thoughts in ways.
What was that process like for you? What kinds of things did you get involved in?
Well, it manifested in a way of trying to be social, trying to be around people of like mind at that time, you know, that's hanging out, you know, doing social things, going to parties and seeing friends and connecting up when you can. You know, obviously with coming out of high school, you know, and understanding that from my culture and the way I was raised, it's you go to school, you get a job.
Right.
So also trying to juggle both of those things. But it looked like me finally getting to a place of not really feeling fulfilled with the activities and the same, the kind of the same old,
Yeah.
you know, day in and day out. And I felt myself just kind of drawn away in ways. I felt like I didn't understand myself. I felt like I didn't understand the meaning of why I'm alive and what I'm here to do.
And how did that shift for you? Because obviously it did shift. You came out of that, and where were you? What were you drawn to do?
And it goes back to food. It's really interesting. Yeah, it goes back to food. My sister had, out of nowhere, just became a vegan. It's like, you know, so it took me some time, and as I started to really deal with myself and my understanding spiritually for myself, it went right back to food. So I changed my diet. I went completely vegan, no dairy, and I connected to some sun-grown foods, vegetables, greens, juices, smoothies, like all of these things, and it almost like felt like I started to unlock new understanding by way of this fuel, by way of this, you know, ability to have a clear mind now, not bogged down by fast food or, you know, because a city kid, you can be away from that culture, but if that's all you know, you're going to perpetuate those ideas, those ideologies. And it started to shift first by food.
Right. And it wasn't just physical either. It sounds like it was mental, and it was your heart, and it was spiritual, as you say. Yeah. How'd you get onto Families First?
So, in that journey of finding myself, I met a really good friend of mine, and he was connected to Families First, and we would play basketball a lot together. We would do men's leagues. He said, "Hey, you know, I know of a place that I think you would be really good at. You should reach out to him." And I reached out, and I got an interview. Like within a couple weeks, it felt like it took forever, but I ended up getting an interview, and I got the job. Yeah.
Families First, it's a nonprofit, and it's committed to helping mostly special needs children.
All ages.
So you were dealing with adults and kids. The skill set that you kind of innately and organically grew in yourself, how did that all apply? How did it work out for you there?
It really was like this, I was meant to be there. I showed up, and I was offered an opportunity to, you know, work with these two clients, and it was a crisis situation. So it was a crisis space. That's what it was. And I agreed. I said, yeah, I did 48 hours in a crisis situation, and these two people were, you know, from probably the first about 10 to 12 hours. It was pretty high alert, you know. And I saw situations that could have gone a certain way, and I connected to each person on where I could meet them at on their level. And it went in waves. It was interesting because one moment it seems like it can go really violent, you know, over, you know, something small in my mind, and then the next minute, after talking to him and connecting to him and really leaning into the situation, next thing I know, we're making food together in the kitchen. The next morning we wake up, and there's like little small fires, you know, here and there, where you could kind of see things could go a certain direction. And by the time I left that 48-hour shift, I feel like, you know, the folks at Families First realized, like, these are like some of our most tough clients.
Right, and you were able to diffuse situations, but also it sounds like so much of what you're doing is really connecting with the person, himself or herself, and making that connection, and therefore giving them some space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. These are people who have had lives full of, you know, just disconnection to themselves and not feeling safe, and and just trying to navigate a world based off of what they've been through, you know, with the tactics that they know. You know, I was able to be in a space and just be a body. I was able to be in a space to de-escalate. I was able to just have a culture in my own classroom that when we moved around the school, you know, I took that as a way to like model, like our classroom is, you're safe. You don't have anything to worry about. I will not I used to declare that probably weekly, putting out small fires all around the school because I loved each and every kid that I came in contact with. You see yourself in them, you know?
Yeah. But you were motivated to go into that mode and to create a place of safety for others.
Absolutely. Young children and the youth, they have very, very good awareness if you're sincere or not. And
Right.
yeah.
Yes, yes, they have a barometer that's pretty sensitive.
For sure.
Yeah. And Kindle Farm School, was it similar in that way? Similar kind of activity?
Yeah, it was very much so similar. The only difference was it's not necessarily residential. It's not a residential program, you know, so you have 6.5 to 7 hours depending on after school programs with a given set of boys. It's a boys' school.
Right, boys and young men with a variety of emotional, behavioral, and neurological needs. So you must have to shift all the time when you're dealing with them and helping them in different kinds of ways.
Yeah, you really and truly have to be one who's willing to do the work away from that kind of work, like when you go home, when you clock out, when you show it back home to your family, to your children.
Right.
You have to be a person that's committed to yourself first, because again, they can pick up on if it's just like some rhetoric or you're just kind of spewing some kind of training that you got to them. They can feel that, you know.
How do you diffuse yourself?
Many ways. Again, food, that's really important. Understanding what works best for my body and how to get the most out of what I put in when I want to ride my bike or if I want to work out at the gym. I got really serious into biking over the last couple of years. Yeah, a lot of miles.
Can you say a little bit about, you have already to a certain degree about kids working on the land, kids' relationship to nature right now and having those opportunities for them?
And that's, again, another way of talking about perfect timing. You know, I was introduced to like one of the only places with a farm at an actual school where I would see, you know, the Voc teacher take the youth, my class, if I was, you know, I'm in my class, 6 to 10 guys. We're going out to the farm. We're going to go put garlic into the dirt for the next season. Or we're cleaning up Brussels sprouts. Or we're putting things at the farm stand, because Kindle Farm had a farm stand as well, where they would sell produce. Or we would be fixing up a greenhouse. We would go into hikes up in the woods, maybe split some wood that day. So it was really great to see the program support for the youth and to offer them, like, you know, there's other things to life maybe than video games and things like that. So it was really good, and a good portion of the day was spent outside.
Right, yeah, I would think that would make a huge difference.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that the pandemic came in there a little bit. What was that like for Kindle Farm? Having to do things by Zoom, not being able to go out with kids? It
was rough knowing that all of the staff was essentially taking on a new form of, you know, this I want to support. I kind of know the ins and outs of the student and what they come to school with. But I will give them many high honors in the sense of we had routes where we would take food to certain students that maybe, you know, maybe that was a challenge there. Maybe that resource was hard to connect in that home. You know, so there was staff going out on routes to drop food off and drop homework off, just to check in, even if it was at a distance. Many creative ideas being made through Zoom meetings with staff of how can we keep this one and that one in the loop and keeping them on the radar. And it was very challenging because I would get text messages, I would get phone calls, and I'm struggling, can we just talk? And, you know, meanwhile, I have 3 kids at home from school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Were you homeschooling during that time?
They went remote as well. So my kids, when Kindle Farm went remote, and mostly all the other schools went remote at the same time. So I'm like on Zoom trying to have a meeting, 3 kids doing homeschooling, yes, to your point, and trying to also keep up with my 7 to 10 students, you know? Yeah.
That must have been a big challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. You made it through the year.
I did.
Yeah. So coming to SUSU CommUNITY, your wife, Amber Arnold, was one of the co-founders. We were lucky enough last year to have Naomi Doe Moody come on the show. So she told us a bunch about SUSU at that time. And for folks who don't know, SUSU Community Farm, it's a collective that aspires to co-create an equitable and just culture for the local BIPOC community, plus other parts of the community as well, to thrive in Vermont. And it includes connection to the land through food, healing resources, ancestral legacy, and community. It's quite a remarkable place. And it seems like you folks have grown tremendously in the last couple of years and have so many people involved. Could you talk a little bit about that and your connection there?
Yeah, it's awe-inspiring. It's remarkable, the work that I've been granted the opportunity to partake in by way of just being around Amber and Naomi. Like, I've learned how to really assess and identify things in myself, and that allows me to be in community. That allows me to be showing up as my best healed self, you know, and not perpetuating, you know, the little kid from Baltimore or perpetuating my own assumptions of other people. It's so much powerful work going on and healing going on and connection back to our ancestral spiritual practices and understanding, like, okay, this is my job, this is my responsibility, you know, especially with the youth and our kids. It's on us to really be the shoulders that they can step on and do this with respect and humility. You know.
What was it like for you? And I'm sure it's probably different for everyone involved with SUSU, but it sounds like you kind of have discovered your ancestral roots and a lot of what goes with that, and healing from various traumas that you grew up with. And that's quite a shift in a life.
Sure is. Yeah, it's very powerful. And it's something that is every single day, every single day. And I have so much high honor and respect for my wife because, again, her abilities and her skills and where she's very strong, I'm very weak. You know, and some of those things could be said about me being strong and her being weak. And so it's just, I'm just very appreciative, and I have a lot of gratitude to be in a position that I am because I sincerely want to grow and do the work. And it sounds like there have been so many things in the creation of SUSU that are, again, sort of being discovered, rediscovered, that are actually part of your DNA. Part of what you're bringing also to our community. Do you feel like, how has the community supported SUSU? What do you feel about that? I feel like the community and the time and placement of SUSU connected is perfect. The support and the acknowledgement, the ability I've seen in people to really sit down with information that may have made them angry or frustrated early on. I've seen shifts in community. I've not just, you know, support by like monetary, but I've seen mental, emotional shifts and just willing to look at things. It's so powerful to be in the CSA and to see so many people willing to put hands in dirt and willing to feed 33 brown and black families. The whole CSA season, which was, I believe, 32 weeks. And that was free. That was no cost. You
were feeding about 40 different families, plus migrant workers who were coming through town as well, living here for seasonal work. And you've got people, again, you've got people working the land, so there's that primal connection right there. And then you folks also have workshops and various modalities that you're sharing with the public too.
For sure.
And is this all taking place on the retreat land there?
Yes, the CSA last season was. And so we'll shift into, that will shift into next year. And then of course we have other programs and ideas and visions that are coming to life for future CSAs.
For you, Jamal, working with mostly youth at SUSU, what's going on there specifically for kids and teens, and what's the vision for the future there?
Yeah, it's really cool. I learned a lot this last CSA season. I could say it's something that I've felt for a long time, but being a part of programs that have kind of had a certain way of doing things with youth for so long, it's easy to kind of like put what you innately feel on the back burner. But what I've learned is that it's something to be said about when youth just want to show up and hang out and just be around you and listen to music. And maybe we can clean some veggies off, and maybe we can weigh some stuff, and maybe not. Maybe we can just talk. And really building strong, lifelong relationships is what I've seen. And it's really powerful because the youth are bought in fully.
Well, that's remarkable, you know, and you're getting the kids also to work on the farm as well.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. You have some youngsters that just, they love to move their bodies, such as myself. And I can see that. I'll hone in on that. Say, hey, you want to come help me with this thing? And I'm also able to identify when a youth is struggling, you know, maybe they showed up with some stuff on their plate that they might need support with.
Right.
You know?
And do you have people helping you with the youth part as well?
I do. It's a team effort all around. I think we all have gifts, and we can say that we do this or that, but it's a team effort all around.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because with Kindle Farm, there was farm incorporated into that learning process as well. For all of us, you know, the last few years have been, you know, challenging, wildly creative, difficult, horrible. You know, it's such a bunch of different emotions. And I know that you've talked about how you always go towards growth, you know, and you really feel that I think you have different visions for the way you see your life and your world. Can you say a little bit about that going forward, coming out of the pandemic, going forward?
It's a great question. I think this season of COVID, if you will, these last couple years really allowed me some real awareness of myself. It was really a huge offering to myself of, can you really take this time and transform it into something powerful? Can you become better from this? And I totally believe I can, and I will, and I am. You know, it's been tough, but I feel like me and my family have smiled through it. We've gotten closer. We've spent, you know, holidays together differently and trying to take out some of the more materialistic ways we can be and really spend that time intentionally with each other. Not just because it's something cool to say, but I think that this time as like a core family and not really being able to travel, you know, our relationships have become stronger. I've done a lot of cool work thanks to my wife and my children, you know. They offer me it every day.
Well, it's really, it's very exciting to hear you talk about it this way, and also really wonderful to hear about, you know, the way you're moving forward and the way you're holding steady to what you really believe in and what brings you health and well-being.
For sure.
Right? Thank you so much, Jarmal.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was lovely to have you on the show. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yes, we'll look forward to seeing what SUSU is up to as the new season approaches.
A lot of beautiful things.
Yeah. Thanks to all of you out there for joining us today. We continue to be a weekly show. We're always excited to have new people from the community come on, and old people as well from the community coming on. We're always going for a diverse cross-section of who's here and what people are doing, what kinds of things are moving our community forward. So thanks for tuning in. Be well, and we'll see you next time.